How does the English fan feel about Euro 2024 so far? Should Gareth Southgate stop experimenting with players' positions? Which players in the England squad would make a balanced team? And how are the words like literally, arguably, and obviously used? Hello, everyone. I'm Zdenek Lucas, and you're listening to the Footglish Podcast. Hopefully, your favorite English learning podcast about football. And this is the second time we are discussing England in the Euros on this podcast. And today I'm joined by Martin from the Rock and Roll English Podcast. Hi, Martin.
Hi, Zdenek. Thanks for having me. I love doing these. Any chance I have to talk about football, I'm happy.
Fantastic. And we are always glad to have you here as well. So we are speaking about England. So in your opening game, why are you laughing?
It's just, yeah.
It could be worse.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's just like I feel like I've seen this so many times in the past, and I kind of thought with Southgate, this like we'd kind of passed this era of like just trying to get the best players in, not really having balance to the team, and just such bad performances. Like I've seen England lose obviously loads of times in my life, but like when you're going for it and you're at least, but it's just that I was watching the match, I was watching it with a friend, and it was just like it's just so boring.
Hang on. So let's slow down. So which match? So just to
both.
remind everyone, there have been two matches already. So in your opening game, you managed to beat Serbia by 1 goal, 1-0, 3 points. Then in your second game, which we are recording today on Friday, your second game was yesterday. It was against Denmark. I watched that game. It was 1-1.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so 4 points.
It's
playoff secured. Shouldn't you be happier?
Not 100% secured. It's very likely, but because we could be one of the best third place teams. But it's just like I said, I've seen this before when England just don't get going, and then they end up going out and they haven't even like put in one decent performance. So I hope I'm wrong, because this is the thing, that it's still early days, and teams that often I see in tournaments that maybe start the tournament well often don't continue that. And we often see teams not starting well and going on maybe even to win. If you look at Argentina, they lost to Saudi Arabia in the World Cup. I remember in 2010, Spain lost to Switzerland, I think, in the World Cup, and they won the World Cup. Now, I'm not saying we're going to win it. I'm just saying there's still time to turn it around, which I hope will be the case. The thing I don't like is that we seem to be like experimenting with things like Trent Alexander-Arnold. Southgate himself said about the Trent experiment, and you think like we're in a tournament now, like the time for experiments
might be a bit too late for that, right?
Absolutely.
And it's probably the wrong trend to experiment with Trent. Playing in the midfield, right? So where should he be? Should he be on the as a right back? Should he play right back? Or?
It seems quite logical for me. That's where he plays every week for Liverpool, and he's played there every week for like 6-7 years now, 7 probably. I've only ever seen him play right back for Liverpool. I've never seen him play. I know he kind of drifts into midfield now in like the kind of last sort of 12-18 months, but he literally never plays there. So, I mean, going to my basic footballing career, I remember once, so I would always play like in midfield, and I had to play in defence once. And it was just, for me, it was just like the whole pitch just looks weird. I'm not used to being in this part of the pitch. So I'm sure that's what he's thinking. Like he's getting the ball with his back to goal, like on the half turn. He's probably just thinking, this is weird, and
not his natural position.
No,
and
I mean, it might become later in his career, because I think he has got the capabilities to play that role, but he needs to learn that position. You can't expect him now just like having never played there, come in and do brilliant job. But to be honest, I think he can be made a bit of a scapegoat because everyone's been rubbish. Like Declan Rice was rubbish yesterday, and he plays there every week for Arsenal.
That's true.
So,
And he's always one of the best wherever he
I
plays.
agree.
So this is unusual for him. But going back to Trent, it's really strange, right? The way
it is strange, but like I don't know if I'm just like picking on him because it's like an easy thing to say because he doesn't normally play there. Because like I said, everyone really. I mean, Harry Kane, he got taken off yesterday. Declan Rice, like everyone hasn't been playing well. So it is easier to say, oh, he's not playing well because that's not his natural position. So there could be some of that.
I was gonna say that it's maybe Southgate wants to play Trent in the middle of the park because perhaps he wants some creativity from the players, and he has it. He has it, so he's looking for it anywhere he can find it, right? So that would be my justification for playing him there. But let's be honest, after those two games, I think we can all see that it's not working. The only question is, can Southgate see it?
Well, I think yes, because he's taken him off in both games. So why would you take if you're watching the match thinking he's playing really well? There's no way you would take him off. But if he's not playing well, then you think, oh, I need to make a change. I'm going to take him off. So I think he can. That's not a good indication, is it? I don't even think he's arrived. He's got to like 60 minutes in both games. I think like 53 minutes he got taken off yesterday, and in the Serbia game, a similar time of the game. I don't know specifically. So I would say he thinks it's not working as well.
You sound a bit miserable, Martin, but from a pragmatic point of view, he got it done. Like Boris Johnson had got the Brexit done in the same way Gareth Southgate got the job done. 4 points. It's not too bad.
Yeah, it's not too bad. It's definitely not too bad. But when the level of performance is so bad, you just kind of think, how are we gonna like beat like Spain or France or whoever? Because I mean, like looking at it, like on like paper, we should be expected to beat these teams. Like if you think about it, I'm not sure if it was official, but like arguably the best player in Germany last year, Harry Kane. Best player in Spain, Jude Bellingham. Phil Foden actually won Player of the Year in England. So that's like 3 of the best players from the best leagues. They all play for England. So I think we're right to like at least expect something. But it's just not working. Part of me thinks, so I read from the World Cup squad, 13 of the 26, only 13 have survived. So that's a big overhaul of the team. And I don't know if like the dynamics are there. Like I always got the impression before that the whole group were really together. And this is just complete sort of my sort of what I see, but I don't know if this is true at all. But I just get that feeling. Like people like Grealish and Maddison, they're like big characters.
They were left out. They were left out.
That's what I mean. So okay, not playing. They didn't really play much anyway in the World Cup, but just being around day to day, like they're actually like good people, and I don't know if that's sort of
well
missing
I have
something as well.
2 points. So first of all, too many stars, so they have got big roles in their clubs. So you've got Saka, Bellingham, Foden. These are prominent players in their clubs. But if you have too many players like that, even Harry Kane, of course, Declan Rice, too many players like that in one team, could it mean that basically you cannot give the same role to those players and they are used to a different sort of standard? And then because if you are used to being the best and suddenly the nature of the team is that you have to be part of that team, and it's just one of the 11 players on the pitch. Could it be one of the issues? And the second one is, so you mentioned all these excellent players being best in the top leagues. They play so many games these days. This is something that has been talked about a lot, right? There are more and more games because of the everyone wants more revenue from the TV rights and the tickets sold. So is that a problem as well?
But I mean, so starting with your second point, if that is a problem, that's a problem for everyone. Like you can't blame like just like I don't know, like for Spain, like whoever, France, that their players play lots of games as well. So and like some of the players I mentioned, like Harry Kane and Bellingham, they don't even play in England. So I find that difficult. But so going back to your first point though, that is a very good point. And if I think of like what this tournament reminds me of, it's kind of like the golden generation era where we had the same problem, where we had Gerrard, Lampard, Rooney, I don't know, like Scholes, Terry, like we had all of these like top players that were like best, like that generation. If I had to name an all-time Premiership 11, lots of those players would get in, and they were all playing for England at the same time. But yeah, they just didn't play together, didn't work as a team because, like you said, you're like Steven Gerrard was the main man at Liverpool, and then when it was like for England, he's not the main man anymore, and it just never worked. So that is a worry as well. That I thought exactly that. This like I said, this thing I've seen so many times with England, but I thought it stopped after Southgate. But now, like I said, I hope I'm wrong and things can turn around because there is still time. But that it reminds me of that, like that 2006 kind of time, and that's not good. But I just hope we click. So you mentioned as well about he wants Trent in central midfield for some creativity.
Yeah.
Now I haven't seen him play very much, but they've got Adam Wharton, I think his name is, the Crystal Palace player. And they call him, I can't remember where he's from, but something Pirlo. So like the London Pirlo or something like that. And he really can pick out a pass. And he plays central midfield every week. I mean, the thing is, he's only just picked him. I don't even know if he's played for England yet. So it's a big ask for someone that plays for Crystal Palace to come into a tournament. But it might be, if he's picked him, so he must think he's ready. So if pick him, play him. That he could be the solution. I don't know. I would like to see a sort of midfield of Rice, Bellingham in a kind of number 8 position, box to box, and Foden as a number 10. That's how I would like to see it. And I think Bellingham is better as a number 8, box to box, because he's not so creative. Like when he gets on the ball, he's not like one to find a cute pass like Foden. He is more power, strength, and I think he is best as a number 8. Sorry, this is my daughter that's just coming. Laura,
your daughter is also not happy about the way England play.
Well.
That's for sure.
I just want to see a team with balance, and I just think with Foden on the left, it's just not. To be honest, I know he had a terrible season, but for me, especially when he plays for England, Rashford is perfect because we have Kane who likes to come drop and like come deep, but you need people running past him, and Saka, who didn't have a great game last night. No one did, but he was our best player. Well, him and Bellingham in the first game. They're just more direct, and it's like Rashford is kind of like one of those like winger / striker, isn't he? He's not.
Yeah.
He's not like Foden who keeps like dropping in to get the ball. But obviously Rashford's not being picked. So even Anthony Gordon, who plays for Newcastle, just people that are more direct and are going to run past the striker, and then it will be balanced. And obviously the other big problem we have is we haven't got a left back. Trippier's playing there. It's not his natural position. I think he's doing an okay job, but it's just you haven't got that balance. Like it's that left-hand side. So you've got a right back playing left back, and then you've got Foden. It's like playing, and he's not a winger. He's not. That's not his game. He's just constantly coming inside.
So a lot of players playing out of position. The balance isn't right, and
we say, what is it? Square pegs in round holes. That's what it feels like.
Yeah. I've heard that phrase.
Yeah, and that's what it feels like. We've got a right back playing central midfield. We've got a right back playing left back, and then we've got like a sort of a number 10 playing left wing.
It seems like a nightmare, to be honest. And on paper, these players, all your players, they make so much money, and they are like worth so much money. in total, like uncomparable to any other teams really in the tournament. I think. Could it also be like you might not like this sort of point, but could it also be that the Premier League is a bit overrated? I'm saying this. I love the Premier League. Yeah, I watch it. I watch it week in, week out. But could it be that as well? Because we all learned to love it. Not just you, the English, but everyone in the world and in Europe. And then it creates so much pressure on you, on your players. It just gets to everyone in the end. Don't you think?
So I have heard. So okay, the pressure thing is, I think, another argument, and yeah, I think that's a valid argument. Like too much pressure and like negativity. But going back to the argument of like basically is the Premier League overrated and maybe are these players overrated? The reason I would argue against that is because like two of our best players don't play in England, and they have been like the best players in their leagues. Harry Kane. I know they didn't win the league, but how many goals did he score? I've got no idea, like 40, something like that. And Bellingham, who was like Real Madrid's best player, and they won the La Liga and the Champions League. So
that is true, yeah.
Like they literally, they've been like the talisman of those teams. So, and well, Foden has been the best player at Manchester City this year. Yeah. And they won the Premier League again, and they were very unlucky in the Champions League against Real Madrid. So I don't know. I find that argument difficult to maybe believe, because
I don't think I believe it myself. I'm just playing the devil's advocate.
It's a valid argument to make, but I don't really believe that one. I think what you mentioned about the pressure is a big thing. Like that. I mean, I think it is the same in other countries. I'm not so sure, but the way that we just sort of like to moan about England.
So you haven't won for a long time as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that as well. The pressure gets bigger and bigger like every time.
It's kind of hanging over you.
Yeah.
You know?
And so this Southgate team. So when his first tournament, 2018, I think that was the tournament where everyone in England had zero expectations. So we were coming on the back of losing against Iceland in 2016.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And so when Southgate got the job, there wasn't even a press conference to announce him. It was just like in the paper, like Southgate's the New England manager, and everyone was just so like not engaged, just like, oh, who cares? Like just totally given up. Went into the 2018 World Cup, zero expectation. Got to the semi-final. And then it was like, oh wow, and then so that was like the start of this team that we're seeing now.
And then you got to the final, the last Euro.
To the final, but that was kind of home advantage. We played all of our games except one at home, so got to the final, and then in the World Cup, I think we were actually team of the tournament until we got knocked out. We beat Iran 6-2, which is unbelievable. We drew 0-0 with America, which, you know, everyone could have an off game. We beat Wales 3-0. We played Senegal. We destroyed them 3-0. And we kind of went toe-to-toe with the French and were like there. Yeah. And then Harry Kane missed the penalty. Yeah. But so it's that which has created all this expectation now. And because like the previous tournaments in the last sort of, 3 tournaments have gone relatively well. Yeah. So 3 tournaments have gone well. We've got all of these top-class players. So now the expectation is there. So like when they went in 2018, it was like I don't think they had that pressure, and it was just like people were pleased to see England.
That's true.
Do well,
and we have to be honest. Like there's so many good teams in the Euros as well. Like anyone can win it. Almost anyone can win it. You know, and the gap is getting smaller and smaller between the good and bad teams as well.
I agree.
I also wanted to ask you about your goalkeeper. I know you only conceded 1 goal, so that's not the problem here. I actually thought your defense looked quite solid.
Yeah, but to be honest,
the keeper. Let me ask you about the keeper. So he seems a bit mad.
Yeah, he's always been like that though. To be honest, with Pickford. So he's been the number 1 since like 2018 World Cup now, like tournaments wise. And I must admit, I've never been a big fan of him, but like when I'd like to see him, well, I don't watch Everton every week, but like you see him play in the Premier League, but he's never really let England down. And like, if you've got a goalkeeper that basically doesn't make mistakes,
No,
you don't really
makes
like.
sense.
I can't really remember any goals where I think like, oh, what was he doing there? Like for example, my team, Manchester United, like every other week the goalkeeper's doing something ridiculous.
It
And you
doesn't
think,
matter who is in the goal. It doesn't matter
he
whether it's
just.
Onana or
But
the one that
Onana,
we had
I
before.
really am not a fan of.
De
Like
Gea.
even in the FA Cup final, he let that goal slip, and you're just like, what are you doing now? Like because the game was going well, like
Yeah,
Manchester City weren't really getting anywhere, and then just let that one in. You think, oh,
yeah,
I've
yeah,
never
yeah.
seen Pickford do that, not once for England.
Mm,
So
mm.
yeah, he's got this annoying goalkeeper thing of if someone like has a shot and he saves it,
He will
the
go
first
down
thing
to the ground.
the first thing is he goes on the floor and then gets up and then starts shouting at his defenders. And you think, look, you're there to save. This is your job. Like you can't expect to not face a shot in the whole
Yeah.
match. But he's just got. I mean, Peter Schmeichel. I mean, they're nowhere near in terms of like quality. But Peter Schmeichel had that. I don't know. Maybe it's just a goalkeeper. Everyone says goalkeepers are mad.
Speaking of Peter Schmeichel, I saw a meme yesterday where Peter Schmeichel was interviewing his son.
Yeah, I saw that.
Did you see that?
Yeah. That was really nice. I actually listened to a
Yeah,
podcast recently when he was talking about his son. It was a
yeah,
Father's Day podcast, and there was Peter Schmeichel, Ian Wright, and Jamie Carragher, because all of
yeah.
their sons have played or play professional football. And that was really interesting, actually, to like think about. You don't really think about that as a family thing. Like Peter Schmeichel said, his son was playing for Leeds, and he was getting so much abuse that because his dad played for Manchester United, and you don't really think about these things. But
Yeah.
so you briefly touched upon the England defence. So I was really worried about that because I think, well, on paper, that's our weakest part of the team on
Mm,
paper,
mm,
but that's
mm.
actually been the best part of the team in
That's true.
reality.
That's true. Yep.
The
Yep.
Crystal Palace player, is it Gahey? I can't.
Gay,
Something
something like that.
like
Yeah.
that.
He's
Yeah,
doing really well,
it's
right?
been amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
I again, sort of what I said about that Adam Wharton. I was worried, thinking, he only plays for Crystal Palace. Not, I don't mean that to sound disrespectful, but he hasn't played in the Champions League, and he hasn't dealt with that pressure. But he seems brilliant, and I actually heard him talk as well, do an interview, and he just seems like he was really well spoken, and seems just like a really nice sort of level-headed guy. And yeah, I would say he's been our best player until
Yeah.
now, except like that first half where Bellingham absolutely ran the show, and
And also
Saka played well.
the first match, like that was Bellingham's game as well.
But
Against
Bellingham
Serbia.
really, though, he faded in the second half, though. He didn't do
True,
anything in the
but
second half.
I'm not just talking about the goal, just the way he went past people. And
Yeah, I mean, the
it just
first
seemed
half
like
was
he was the best, by far the best player of the game.
yeah. The first half of that game, it was like men against boys. It was just like there were times when he was just like sort of just walking past people, just sort of like pushing people off, and
Yeah.
that is why I want to see him play number 8, because I want to see him like run the game, because as a number 10, he hasn't got that creativity, I don't think.
So you're basically advising more experiments to Southgate.
But I don't really see it as that much experiment. I see that as Bellingham's natural position to play number 8. I know he has played more advanced in a kind of number 10 for Real Madrid, but I think
No.
his natural position, his best position, is number 8, getting from
Well,
box to box, because he's powerful. He can do everything. He can defend, he can tackle, he can shoot, he can do everything. So make him run the game, not just sort of like coming into the box late.
well, you have got one more game to do that. Now that you have pretty much more or less qualified, I don't think we will jinx it if we say it here. 4 points.
I do not want to. I would
honestly,
never say anything before.
I think some teams will even qualify with 3 points. That is my prediction.
Yeah. To be honest, I'm not a big fan of this thing, but yeah.
Well, anyway,
but I would never say before, like, oh, we've qualified now, like, until it's done.
I'm not saying that, and also like I'm in a different position. I'm not an English fan. I mean, like I cheer for you, but as my number 3 or 4.
Oh, 3
actually,
or 4. Okay.
Yeah, it's got Slovakia as well. So
right, okay.
Yeah, so I think more like number 3, number 4. Yeah.
Oh, right. And so number 4, who would be then number 3?
So I thought I would also cheer for Ukraine, but they're not really they're not really pulling out any trees. They're
Yeah,
not
yeah.
at the races. So it looks like I might have to
Well, they
stick
got
with
battered
England.
by Romania, which I think maybe was probably the best performance I think I've seen. The Romania game, and
And
there's always a
Martin,
surprise team. That could
yeah,
be them, I think.
and as of now, they are losing to Slovakia as well.
God, just
1-0.
I said that. Typical.
Yeah. It might change, but like they're not looking very good at the moment. So obviously
Romania are losing. Okay.
No. I'm talking about Ukraine. Sorry.
Oh right, sorry. Yeah, because Romania are playing Belgium tomorrow, aren't they?
Yeah, or maybe tonight. I don't know.
Oh, is it tonight? Okay.
Actually tomorrow. Yeah.
Right.
So I'm just saying I was going to support Ukraine because of the war situation. I really wish them.
I think everyone does. Yeah.
Well, all the people that have common sense, I will say.
Yeah, of course.
So
I think everyone's second team is kind of Ukraine, because for what's happening, because that's the great thing about sport. When your certainly country does well, it just gives everyone such a lift. Like, so in my time, anytime England have got to like semi-final, it's just like there's just such a great feeling. Like and everyone's together and it's brilliant. So yeah, if anyone deserves it, it's certainly Ukraine.
Yeah,
so
they don't
it's not looking good. Sure,
it's not looking good at all actually right now. So and they are yet to play arguably the biggest team of that group, which is Belgium. Yeah. So I don't know what's going to happen.
Who lost the first match though? Belgium sort of reminds me a bit of us. Really, got lots of good players, but never really click as a team. Their golden generation seems to have gone a bit now. I think it's past its best. But when they had that golden generation, it was kind of like our golden generation. Had all these like wonderful players, but just never really played that well as a team. And I'm kind of worried this is the new one that we're seeing, because these players, although in fairness to Southgate, he showed some courage. I was going to say a different word there, but by taking off Kane, Saka and Foden, he took all three of them off
at the same time.
Yeah, and I was very surprised by that. But so I thought fair play, because they weren't doing anything, and you need to give them a kick up the backside. You can't just think I'm just going to play rubbish and my place in the team like Harry Kane. Like, you can't just play rubbish every game and expect to play. Like, at one point, they're just going to say, "Look, you need to like pull your socks up and do something, because if you don't, you're off." Exactly. So I was pleased to see that.
Anyway, Martin, we have got to go. This has been
I could talk about this all day. Yeah.
I can see you really. It's getting out of hand a little bit. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, of course. We want me up. Yeah.
No, we want to hear a true English fan on the podcast, and it's great. Yeah. It's great. But I want to keep these podcasts a bit shorter, because I also have to explain some stuff, like some vocabulary at the end of this.
Sure.
So I'll try to keep it short this time.
I hope we'll record another one towards the end of the tournament where things have changed and England are looking like a proper team.
It can be one of the two things. It can either be that or you're gonna come to rant here.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, thanks a lot for having me on, Zdenek, and talk to you. And obviously good luck to the Czech Republic as well.
You're very welcome. And if anyone is interested, Martin has a fantastic podcast called the Rock and Roll English Podcast.
I think I've got my Rock and Roll English top. Oh, you have. Yeah.
There you go.
Get some advertising in there.
Okay. Well, Nice one. Cheers,
all
Martin.
Right. See ya. Bye-bye.
See you. Welcome back. In this part of the show, I'm going to be the English teacher I am and explain to you some vocabulary. And I promise I will make it short and sweet, because we don't have so much time today. What are the words obviously, literally, arguably? What do they mean? How are they used? So I'm going to give you an example. Martin said he literally never plays there. He was talking about Trent Alexander-Arnold, and he was saying basically that Trent normally plays as a right back, not a central midfielder. And if you say that someone literally never plays there, you're basically emphasizing the fact that the player doesn't play there. Basically, this word literally means exactly as described, but it's a way to emphasize your point. Yeah. Okay, and then Martin said, arguably, the best player in Germany, Harry Kane. So arguably means probably. And then there's another word, obviously, which means clearly, or everyone can see that. Now, these three words are adverbs. They end with ly, as you can see, all of them, and they are put at the beginning of the point that someone makes. So usually at the beginning of a sentence or clause, and they are opinion adverbs. So by using the word obviously, you're kind of giving it more certainty, right, to your utterance, to what you're saying. With the word literally, you're basically saying that it's exactly as described. So again, you're kind of emphasizing it. And with the word arguably, you're sort of making it a little bit weaker, what you're saying, by saying probably. You don't want to sound too strong. Yeah. So all these three words, you would use them at the beginning of sentences. There are more words like that in the English language, which help you kind of adjust what you are saying one way or another, making it weaker, stronger, likely, less likely, stuff like that. All right, guys, that's it. Thank you very much for listening to this episode of the Footglish Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast. It's available wherever you listen to podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, you name it. Thanks again and have a good day. Bye-bye.